The gang is all here once again. Another edition of Trackside. We're all in the same room once again. Myself, John Jenko, and Terry Craig talking about a very thrilling weekend of racing at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the Brickyard 400, back for the second year on the oval. And we saw really the fruition of a winner that's a guy that's been competing for wins for quite a while, and it just hasn't quite worked out with Bubba Wallace taking the checkered flag in Sunday's crown jewel race, a first for him, first ever crown jewel win, and a pretty intriguing race, I would say, overall, and a pretty exciting finish with a couple of overtimes there at the end. Terry, does it surprise you that Bubba Wallace was able to hang on for this win?
It was a bit surprising. Obviously, bold strategy got them out front. I was questioning whether or not they had enough fuel, but they proved me wrong. I mean, there are guys that thought that they could make it to the end, but had to pit at the end. I mean, I was a little shocked to see, Chase Briscoe come down to pit road. Shocked to see William Byron run out of pit road. The broadcast didn't really hit on him on how much fuel he had, but at the end of the day, I was a little worried when that red flag came out. Obviously, red flag for rain in really just one corner. It was just a quick little shower. But at the end of the day, Bubba Wallace is an emotional guy, and it was so interesting just to see the relief that he had in that post-race interview. It seemed as if the weight of the world was lifted from his shoulders. Obviously, he had a 100 race winless streak, I believe, and he made it very clear in the broadcast that now it's zero. So,
Love the swagger.
yeah. I think that I want to see more positivity from him because obviously he wears his emotions on his sleeve, and it's something that we've seen in the past kind of bring him down. But I thought it was good to see, a relieved Bubba Wallace, and who knows? I mean, this could be a catalyst for something even bigger as we push to the playoffs and in the playoffs too. And now Bubba could potentially make a run.
And that's what I was thinking as well. There have been points in his career where it's like this guy is finally taking it to the next level. Like I thought that after he won Kansas in the fall of 2022. Like, hey, like this guy has shown a lot more speed in this 2022 season. Like he's gonna maybe start clicking off wins and be a more consistent threat. I kind of thought the same thing again when he went deep into. I think he made it to the round of 12 in 23 and was competing for that win at Texas. He with William Byron came down to it with the late race restart there, and he lost it. I mean, it was a situation like if that was the same Bubba Wallace that was in this Indianapolis race, that he is going to lose to Kyle Larson in this race. So I think there has been just such a transformation in his emotions really throughout these last few years. There was talk about it at the beginning of the season, like he's got this new temperament, I guess, about him. He's more focused. He's got a kid and a wife now. Things off the track going really well for him. Like he's got his emotions more in control, and I think all of that went into this win because we saw a team throughout this summer stretch that really struggled, had a lot of races just get away from them,
Yeah.
and to kind of block all of that out to go have a super clutch performance in a crown jewel race, I think is a version of Bubba Wallace that we have not seen before.
Yeah, it really does take a true professional to be able to not only beat Kyle Larson, but also save enough fuel to find the checkered flag first. It truly takes a professional. That was a professional performance from Bubba Wallace. And as you said, that's something that we didn't really see from him in the past. I mean, it was kind of funny, seeing Bubba and Larson, be friendly with each other at the end because a few years ago, let's not forget, it's Bubba Wallace that right hooked Larson. I believe was it at Kansas? I believe
Las Vegas.
Las
and then tried
Vegas.
to fight him after the fact.
Yeah. And I think that's the Bubba that I think Bubba Wallace has kind of put in the past. The one that
Absolutely.
a little has a bit of a temper. I think that was a day when he was really fast. He got put in the wall by Larson. I think he kind of snapped. And now fast forward to Indianapolis over the weekend. You saw a true professional out of him. But at the end of the day, it was strategy that did get him out in front. So, John, obviously, what was your thoughts on the racing and the strategy that we saw over at Indianapolis this weekend?
I think what we saw is the Indianapolis of old. Like it's never been a track that is easy to pass, and that was even true in IndyCar this
Yeah.
last season with their new hybrid system onboard the cars. The cars are going faster. It's just a lot harder to kind of generate a run where you're going faster than the other guy. So this is Indianapolis racing. I mean, it's what it is. You have to have a perfect race to stay out front and manage your track position. And I thought the strategy throughout was super intriguing. All kinds of discussions about who, all these alternate strategies and who's going to come out on top. Even if the racing itself, we didn't have an on-track pass for the lead the entire race. Even if we didn't have that, I was still super invested in this race throughout the entirety of it. I thought that aspect of it was fantastic. Restarts were crazy. I always love a track that has some exciting restarts. So I was overall pretty happy. I would prefer this 1,000% over the Roval at Indianapolis.
And I'll say this too: expectations matter, and knowing what you're going to get going into something is important. Let's say, for example, obviously Bristol. When we go into a Bristol race, we don't want to see strategy. We don't want to see green flag pit stops. We want to see physicality.
Banging and
Whereas
banging.
yeah, whereas you go into a road course race, you're expecting to see strategy. And I think that's why I was a fan of what we saw this weekend, because it's kind of what we think of Indianapolis. The restarts are wild, which they were. People can't get into gear, in the restart zone. You get pileups, and then obviously people are trying to get everything that they can off the restarts, and obviously pit strategy. I mean, the Fords were aggressive pretty early on. Pit strategy at the end got Bubba Wallace out front. He was able to, obviously hold on and win. But I thought the strategy was pretty intriguing, and it's kind of what we thought going into it. And I think that's what made Indianapolis such an exciting race for me. I mean, you never really knew who was going to win up until the end, because the strategy was
Yeah,
putting guys at the back up front. Guys up front were in the back. Obviously, Chase Briscoe's a driver that I followed, but at the end of the day, it was hard for me to follow because he was 15th, or he was third, he was
yeah.
first, he was eighth. So you never really knew who was going to win until the end. And I think that you know, is a big part of why we like NASCAR. We never want to see a driver dominate from start to finish, and that's not what we saw this weekend. So overall, it gets my seal of approval.
By the way, are teams lying to the broadcast about their fuel mileage? Because we've been told at like three different races this year, like there is no way that this guy is going to make it to the end on fuel.
Yeah,
And then it's like no problem. And then they can do like the biggest burnout you've ever seen on top of all of that,
yeah, I
right?
was surprised to see Bubba do a burnout. I was like, where did all this fuel come from? And we're looking at, as I said earlier, William Byron, Chase Briscoe, guys that the broadcast thought were going to be good. They're pinned before the end of the race. So I really do think that guys might be lying about their fuel mileage, but who knows? Who knows?
I mean,
Only the teams.
I thought Bubba was completely cooked after the caution on the first
Yeah,
overtime. Like I was like, there's no chance he's winning this race. He is going to either run out of fuel in the pace laps or run out of fuel now. But obviously that was not the case there. So we also had the finale of the in-season challenge. We'll talk about this just briefly. It wasn't a whole lot of entertainment value.
yeah.
Ty Dillon got caught up in one of those restart stack ups pretty early on and had a big dent in his nose. He was not competitive at any real point in this race. I think he finished 3 laps down. So Ty Gibbs takes home $1 million for that, and his team does that. Not like Joe Gibbs Racing really needs it, but
They have a little bit of change in their pocket.
yeah, I think so. But again, I think we've talked about this, but really would love for this challenge to come back, but just reseed it to where it's overall season points. Because I think if we had a situation where it's like the guys at the front of this Brickyard 400
Yeah.
are racing for that million, I think that gets so intriguing so fast. So that's maybe something to keep in mind for next year.
And you might have to, do a different sample size of races or a different block of races as well, because I think that it was just a little too unpredictable. I mean, anything could happen.
It's ended on a short track too.
Yeah, I think that would make the for better entertainment value as well. But in terms of the in-season challenge, when NASCAR looks back at it, I do think that this was a bit of a success.
Yeah.
Early on, we were interested. Now, obviously, the finale, we didn't get what we wanted. I mean, Ty Gibbs and Ty Dillon, they never really were close to each other on the track. So I do think that was a bit disappointing. But if you did have a better set of tracks for more predictability and more opportunities for the guys at the cream of the crop, to rise and be able to move through the play or move through this tournament. I think that would that'd be beneficial for NASCAR. So that was just a quick conversation. Let's move on to the playoff bubble, and we do have a screenshot of that. So this is the current playoff bubble or playoff points after the race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Obviously, Bubba Wallace gets that win, moves up, locks himself into the playoffs. Good for him. So now there are 3 guys above the playoff line. Tyler Reddick plus 138 to the good. He should be good unless we get a bunch of new winners. Alex Bowman plus 63, Chris Buescher plus 42. Then we move behind the cutoff line. Ryan Preece minus 42, Kyle Busch minus 81, Ty Gibbs, and then AJ Allmendinger. So, John, I'm going to open the floor up to you. What are your initial thoughts at looking at this playoff board?
To be honest, Terry, I don't think Bubba's win really changes much, other than the fact for him, like he has been in this bubble battle every single season since he, got to 23-11. It seems so good for him to not have to deal with that. But I don't think we see more than one new winner. So I think for Chris Buescher, I'm a little nervous
Yeah.
there. But you talk about you've got Iowa coming up, Watkins Glen, and Richmond. Those seem like races where guys that are already locked in are going to win those races to me. Daytona is the true wild card there. I think that's going to be just a wild race, just like every year we've had it as the penultimate race or the final race in the regular season. So I don't think this changes a whole lot. We saw you would have liked to have seen a better run out of Chris Buescher, considering the fact that he is now demoted to the bubble spot there. But I do think anyone below that cutoff line now, the gap's 42 points. I think it's win or go home time.
Yeah. My first reaction to looking at this board is a couple weeks ago, or frankly, ever since we started Trackside, I've been harping on we might see 16 different winners. We're going to get close. I retracted it about a week or two ago. But I'm going back to my original statement.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I really do. I think, as you said, Daytona could be a wild card. And the thing is with Watkins Glen, if somebody's able to beat Shane Van Gisbergen,
he's got to wreck him.
Yeah, that's also true. But if someone were to beat him, I think it might be someone beneath the cutoff line. I mean, let's not forget, we got Michael McDowell out there. We still got AJ Allmendinger. And let's not forget, too, Iowa is a new track for the Cup Series. And correct me if I'm wrong, if the Cup Series has ever raced at Iowa, and if they have, it's not been any time recent. Last year was the first. Yep, that is right. Blaney won last year. So still, that one could still be a wild card. So I'm not too sold on anyone above the cut line feeling safe. And I'd hate for Tyler Reddick to be the guy that maybe not make the playoffs if he can't get a win. That would be tragic for him, but he's a good enough driver. Yeah, I mean, he's a good enough driver to where he maybe could get one over the course of the next 4 races, but I think everyone above the cut line should be sweating. I mean, with Daytona on the schedule, I mean, who knows? Who knows?
And we talked about it too, like 23-11, they're uncharted now. We talked about like the struggles, the distraction of this lawsuit. Yeah. Maybe with Bubba's win, some of that anxiety goes away and Tyler Reddick can pop off a win.
That could be true, but there's plenty more chaos and madness to be happening over the course of these final 4 races before the playoff, but still plenty more NASCAR news to talk about. We're going to be mentioning Austin Hill and maybe NASCAR's potential return to Chicagoland. Plenty more NASCAR news right after the break here on Trackside. Welcome back, everyone. We're going to be dissecting the Xfinity Series race that we saw over at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and you saw on the CW. We're going to talk a little bit about Austin Hill, an incident that he had with Eric Almirola. Eric got him a little loose in a corner. He had a spectacular save. And once he gathered things up, pretty much seemed as if Austin Hill made a left on the wheel. Caught Eric Almirola in his right rear. Eric Almirola was sent into the wall, and that part of the wall did not have safer barrier as well. So, John, obviously, what is your initial reaction to what we saw? And also, Austin Hill got suspended for this incident
Yeah,
as well.
suspended one race, and with that, under new NASCAR rules for this season, he loses all playoff points that he's accrued up to this point, and any playoff points that he will accrue after his suspension and before the playoffs start. So, big loss for that 21 team there, but I think certainly the penalty from NASCAR here in this case is justified. What we saw on Saturday, I thought was pretty classless on Austin Hill's part when you consider. Uh, his car did not even hit the wall. He just got loose. Eric Almirola comes behind him, packs the air on the left rear corner, like just about everybody does to pass. It's very hard to pass with how the Xfinity Series package runs at Indianapolis. So that's kind of what you have to do, and it's what everybody does. Austin Hill gets loose and wearing the white gloves, it's clear as day. He turns left right into the right side of Eric Almirola's car. Really scary accident too when you consider Eric Almirola, he's an older driver on a part-time schedule, and he's got a history of back issues. He broke his back essentially in a wreck at Kansas about less than 10 years ago. But scary stuff right there. And honestly, I thought Hill got off easy when you look at this because he's had a history in NASCAR. He wrecked Cole Custer after they had traded some paint last year at Charlotte, I believe under caution as well, if I recall correctly, but turned Cole Custer into the inside wall. He got a fine for that and was docked some points. But I think when you consider, the recency of that, and you have another even more egregious incident, I am a little surprised it's just one.
I'm going to be, completely honest with you, John. What Austin Hill did this weekend was absolutely disgusting. One race is not good enough. It should be two, three, or potentially more. If NASCAR wants to get this garbage out of the sport, then
Yeah.
suspend him because let's be honest. Eric Almirola could have died in that car, right? These guys are going what 170, 180, 190 around this track. Gets right hook, no chance to save the car. Hit a portion of the track that did not have safer barrier. Eric Almirola after the race said that this is one of the hardest hits he's ever taken. At these speeds, that type of crash, Eric Almirola could have got seriously hurt or died. So if NASCAR wants to get this garbage out of the sport, then do something about it because one race isn't enough. He could come back and do it again. Do you think he learned his lesson? Absolutely not. Richard Childress's comments after the race. Now, granted, he does have to protect his guy to a standpoint, but as he said, they're blue collar guys. They got a bunch of hard workers, and the comments that he made after the race to Jordan Bianchi, I believe, um, it's just poor. It's terrible. The NASCAR's got to do something about this. I mean, one race to me isn't enough. I think Austin Hill really needs to take some time to really think about what he did. He's supposed to be one of the leaders in the Xfinity Garage,
Put that
and
on himself.
yeah, and he put it on himself. He did. He said, he needs to be one of the leaders of the garage, and frankly, he's far from that. He's far from that. I'd honestly go as far as to say that the 19-year-old that won the race is more mature and has a much brighter future in NASCAR than Austin Hill. So that's my thoughts on it. And I think that makes for a great transition to talk about Connor Stillage as well.
Wow. I mean, it really did mar what was a fantastic race, I
Yeah,
thought. I thought the entire Xfinity race was entertaining. I thought the on-track action
yeah.
was a lot more entertaining than what we saw with Cup. Uh, lots of really exciting restarts there as well. Some good action on the track. Cars. We kind of talk about the NASCAR just wants the cars to stay close to each other on the track, but it was close quarter action all day long. And yeah, Connor Zillish just clutch, man. I mean, goes and gets him on the last restart of the race there, passing Taylor Gray for the win. And this guy, what is this? Is this his third win in a row?
Third win in the row and fourth win out of the last six. I remember that
Okay.
stat off the top of my head because I read it a lot of times over the weekend because I was filling in for sports. Uh, so yeah, credit to him and credit to Junior Motorsports as well. This was their 100th win in the Xfinity Series, and what Dale Jr.'s been able to do in this series as a car owner is spectacular because guys like what you're seeing on the screen, Connor Zillich, he's the future of the sport. He's
Absolutely.
one of the big players that is going to carry the sport to the future. And you notice a lot of guys that are in Cup now, a lot of the good guys in Cup have ties to Junior Motorsports. So Junior Motorsports really is cultivating the future. And I, he's just doing a great job in the Xfinity Series, and I hope for future success for.
Okay, Connor.
Okay now,
All right.
Connor. Okay now, Connor. But I do hope that they can. I do hope that they have continued success in the Xfinity Series,
Uh,
and there's going to be more bricks for Connor Zillage to kiss, maybe
I would
in the
guess
future.
so. I can't
Yeah,
believe
that's
he
a little bit
just
more
did
than
that.
kissing.
Good grief. But yeah, I mean, totally impressive and crazier too. They started the season with 88 wins. They have 12 wins on the Xfinity Series season, and they have run I don't know how many races, but not that many more than 12. I mean, they have absolutely dominated the season. It is super impressive what they've done. And yeah, like just the premier place. If you want to develop your talents as a driver, go to Junior Motorsports because
And real quick before we transition, two questions. Will Connor Zillage be in the NASCAR Cup Series next season? And if yes, what team do you think he'll be on?
I think yes, and I still think it's Trackhouse. I mean, he's got a really close bond with Shane Van Gisbergen. It seems. I think he fits their brand really well. I think if I'm Justin Marks, I know there's been a lot of speculation, like, hey, someone's going to get out their pocketbook to go and get him to their team. But I mean, Justin Marks has a lot of money too, so I think he can do what's necessary to keep Zilish around, and I think Zilish at least will start his Cup Series career with Trackhouse. Got to
I
improve a lot of those cars, though.
I do think that he will be in the NASCAR Cup Series, and I did allude to maybe or talk about a few weeks ago that another team could potentially poach him, but I do feel as if Trackside or not Trackside, Trackhouse. That's not the first time I've said that. That Trackhouse could be his landing spot. And real quick before we head to break, there was a report. Chicagoland could be back on the NASCAR schedule next year. I believe that was in a report by The Athletic. Initial thoughts to hearing that.
Love it. I think Gen 7 car will put on a fantastic show at Chicagoland. Really, in the closing years of the Gen 6, had a couple of really great races there as well. You had that iconic Kyle Larson versus Kyle Busch, beating and banging all the way to the line, slide job type finish, and the race where Bowman got his first win there
Yep.
was really good too. So I think that this car on an aging mile and a half surface always puts on a good race. Kind of see
Yeah.
it at Kansas. I think we'll see that even more so at Chicagoland. So really happy about that.
Yeah, I'm happy about that. Obviously, some reports are the Chicago
Street
Street
race
Race. Well,
gone.
that's already confirmed that the street course will not be on the schedule next year. But I think that it is good that NASCAR is continuing to stay in that market because I'll tell you this: having worked in West Central Indiana, covering some of Illinois, there are some diehard NASCAR fans out there.
I don't know if we talked about it last week too, but excited about the San Diego street race
Yep.
at the Navy base there. That's going to be a pretty cool event. It sounds like so.
Already got my hotels. We're going to be out there next year. So yeah, so it's going to be a good one. It's going to be
Wow.
a good one. But hey, plenty more NASCAR news coming up after the break. We're going to be discussing playoff format and giving you all a preview of the Iowa Speedway. You're watching Trackside. Stick with us.
Welcome back. We will start this third and final block of Trackside with some serious news here. NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series driver Stuart Friesen, who is currently locked into the playoffs there with the win, was involved in a very serious dirt modified crash this last week at a track. And right now, Stuart Friesen is in serious but stable condition at a hospital in Quebec, Canada. He'll be, according to an update posted on his social media from his wife, he'll be transferred to a hospital in New York with multiple surgeries over the next few days. So certainly our thoughts with Stuart Friesen, a long-time NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series driver. And that I don't know if you've seen the video of that crash, but it was one of the worst dirt racing crashes I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I mean, that is one of the scariest crashes I've seen. And what I have to say on it is, just wishing him the best, wishing him well. Wishing him a speedy recovery. As you said, he's been in the Truck Series a while. One of the veterans there, a driver that, a lot of the young guns look up to. So wishing him well, and hopefully, we can see him in a car soon. And don't want to, speak on anything too soon, but it doesn't seem like he's going to be able to be back in a truck this year. Who knows about next year? But at the end of the day, just wishing him well and wishing him a speedy recovery.
Yeah, certainly thinking of him, and you would think that would kind of be like the Kurt Busch situation there, where that would open up and his spot in drivers' point standings for the playoffs would be switched out, and maybe if so
Yeah,
they can put someone in the car for owners' points, he would
yeah.
still be in it for that because he does own that 52 truck team as well. On a lighter note, we are going back racing once again here this weekend, going back for the second time, bringing the Cup Series to the Iowa Speedway. Xfinity going there as well. Longtime track for the Xfinity Series there. I thought the racing last year at Iowa was super solid. I don't know if you remember. You forgot we even
Yeah,
had
I
a race
did. I
there
had to think about
last
it a
year.
little bit. It's going to be an interesting one. Obviously, I feel like the comparison is maybe Richmond, but just a little bit bigger as well. I mean,
Faster.
Richmond, quarter or 3/4 of a mile, 0.75. I believe this one's 0.88. I'd have to double check on that one. But yeah, overall, I think it's a pretty good course. Not completely a short track because it is closer to a mile than being a short track. Obviously, Ryan Blaney won it last year, but I'm excited to go out there. I mean, I feel like the temperature's up. Obviously, we talked about, the playoff bubble, but also the regular season championship is heating up as well. I mean, it's a, 4-horse race between Denny, Byron, Larson, I believe, and maybe someone else. So I think that there's a lot on the line going into Iowa this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, Denny's in striking distance. He's
Yeah.
only 20 points down after this
And I believe
summer
Christopher Bell's
streak.
in it as well.
61
60.
back. So
Okay.
that's a bit tougher stretch. But he can certainly still perhaps move up if someone has some misfortune. That's still more
Yeah.
playoff points on the line because it ranges from 6 where Bell's at now and 5th on playoff points to 15 if you win the regular season title. So there's a lot on the line when it comes to that. And I think seeing those guys duke it out over these next few weeks here will be super interesting as well. I honestly think Denny's going to get it. Like, I mean, 20 points over 4 races is not a hard gap to make up when you talk about some of these guys. Larson's starting to find his mojo again, I
Yeah.
think. But Byron and Elliott are a little out to lunch, I think, when it
If
comes to a lot of places.
and Denny mentioned this in his podcast, if he can get through Watkins Glen, I think that he has a very good shot of winning that regular season championship because it is well documented that he's not a road course racer, and the guys that he is racing against, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, they're pretty good at road courses.
Yeah.
So if he can get past Watkins Glen, maybe, flip a stage or two and mitigate the potential damage that he himself is predicting, we could see Denny Hamlin winning that regular season championship. But in terms of who could win at Iowa, John, who you got?
This week, I really like Chase Briscoe. He is a
Okay.
guy that has a lot of experience on that Iowa track through all those years in the Xfinity Series. He's won there in the Xfinity Series, and that 19 team, I think, is hitting their stride at the right time. Would have had a really solid run at the Brickyard had the fuel held up. So give me Chase Briscoe at Iowa.
I have two picks. One is someone that I feel like could win, and another one is a bit of a long shot. I do feel like that a Ford will likely see victory lane.
Interesting. Why do you think that?
I could see fuel saving. I could see that coming into play. I think Fords are generally their strength, and I think I could see a guy like Joey Logano sneaking his way into victory lane. This track just reminds me of a place where a Ford could sneak into victory lane.
How many overtimes are going to run then?
Who knows? A thousand maybe. And then my long shots, and I'll tell you why I think so. Um, Last year, I believe Richmond was one of the best races that Richard Childress Racing had as an organization. Obviously, Austin Dillon got the win there last year. I could see a guy like Kyle Busch
Oh boy.
sneaking his way in because obviously the comparison for this track is Richmond, but a
Yeah.
little bit bigger. So you don't necessarily need raw speed to find victory lane. And I think a guy like Kyle Busch, if you can give him a decent car, let him tune it a little bit, who knows? He might find his way because Richard Childress Racing, they had their best race last year at Richmond.
That's true.
So those are my picks.
Austin
Logano and
Dillon too. He's got more track time this weekend because he's filling in for
yep.
Austin Hill. So I mean, maybe Richard Childress has something this week.
Who knows? But it's going to be a good weekend of racing. Obviously, the Cup Series, I believe, going to NBC this weekend, and you can watch the Xfinity race on the CW as well. Another great episode of Trackside. Me and John, we're going to be excited to see the racing and over in the Midwest at Iowa Speedway. But for myself and John Janko, y'all have a good one. Thank you for watching Trackside.